It's like,
Yo, what up, everybody? Paradigm Review Show, PXF, Planet X Filmworks. Like, subscribe, share, please. Check out our last things that we did, which was the Joker versus SJW's review and the Rambo Last Blood versus SJW's review. So today we have a special hip-hop edition once again. Myself and Mac being Guerrilla Alliance. Check us out at youtube.com/Planet X Records LLC and subscribe there as well for our music. Wu Tang Clan of Mics and Men 2019 documentary. They call it a TV series or a limited docu-series. 4-part series brought to you by Showtime. I would assume that RZA has some sort of executive production role on this because it's a in-depth deep dive of the history of the Wu Tang Clan. So Mac and I will just kind of be talking about Wu Tang this episode and going into what they covered in the docu-series. Don't really need to worry about spoilers. I don't think too much on a docu-series, but we're not going to give you everything. So if you guys are a Wu Tang fan and you haven't seen it, you'll still have a chance to watch it for yourself. Check it out. Let us know what you think and leave your feedback in the comments. So Mac, welcome back.
yeah, man. Heck yeah, man. Shoot, just first off, like I say, I am a big Wu fan, obviously, what I mean? Like, right now I'm drinking a beverage, and as you can see right here, what do you see? There you go, you know what I mean? Also, I got the vinyl of the 36 Chambers. So
there you go.
Right there, right there, that I myself am a Wu fan, along with PXF, obviously.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, most of our music was also, influenced by how the Wu did, their thing, obviously. And for this documentary to come out, it shows a more in-depth look on like how the clan pretty much chronicalized their music career from the beginning of, the struggles from the projects in Staten Island all the way out to today, where they are right now. And as you can see in the documentary, you even hear all the nine brothers, well, 8 brothers, or 9 brothers, right? Yeah, 9 brothers talk,
from the start, yeah.
Yeah, and just talk about, the history and from the start of, how it all came to be. And I can say, like, after watching the documentary, you even feel even more like closer to, like, as a fan, their music, but when you watch this, you see how close you are, to how the artist is and, what their life was, and
I agree.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, just a great, documentary that talks about the music, the love, the business, the the craziness, of it all, So
yeah, this is like one of the cleanest, like, probably documentaries I've ever seen as far as the quality and how it was shot. Like, you can really see that Showtime budget behind it, and like it's probably one of the most like realistic, accurate documentaries as I've seen, as far as, like Max said, like a deep dive of going into the backstory, because we all know a certain lore associated with the Wu-Tang, and like, at times you have these certain members, argue with RZA, and at times, sometimes it goes public across like social media and stuff like that in the modern age, and we've all heard stories of how things have gone like before, but even that is not the same as like actually seeing the arguments for real in real time. The fact that they had all of that foot, like any backstage thing, like BTS behind the scenes moment that you ever would have wondered about it, like I feel like they included it in the documentary. So you walk away like really not having any more questions. Like, they showed you everything, and I mean everything. Like, I don't feel like anything was censored. I don't feel like anything was like they left anything out, really, for the most part. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I didn't walk away feeling like, oh, they could have showed more of that. Like, no, man, they show you everything for real.
There's actually just everything you need to know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, obviously, you don't need to know about the dirt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's that's something you keep to yourself, obviously.
It's personal, but at the same time, though, as far as like the arguments about money and stuff, I mean, they kind of do.
Yeah,
I don't know if you call
I
that.
believe, like,
I don't know if you call that dirt, but they do show that to you. So you know what I mean.
no, that's something but that's something that's different, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really,
And it's also
business.
Right,
That's
exactly, yeah. And it's also known. It's like everybody kind of knows that part of the story, but like when they actually go directly into it and show it to you, this is why it happened, So like,
yeah, they even showed obviously how the business aspects of it is just so messed up, But at the end of the day, they make, they're still brothers. You know what I mean? They're still a family.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
They don't let.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's one thing that I respect about the whole clan is like they don't let the involvement of money, get in between how they relate to each other, And I think that's how most hip hop groups and most hip hoppers, you know what I mean, or and any rappers that call themselves hip hop, I think is lacking nowadays as such, because it's all about the money now, but something like that get in between, that might have been your day one, you know what I mean, or that might have been your man from like back in, so, you know what I mean, like when y'all were like, and that's the thing, man. It's like you can see that, you know what I mean, like the family aspect was there, it felt very real, you know what I mean.
I mean, like that's the other thing too. Like the 9 members, like like you said, like it's tough to have business with 9 people plus a manager and Divine and whoever else. So like now you're like all those other dudes that were involved in management. So you got like 10 plus 15, 20 people. Like I think there's a reason why like there never has been a rap group that big, like you said, because they were brothers. That's the only thing that kept it together, and I think that's the reason why. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's the reason why we'll never see one, at least probably not from like New York or LA. Like, of course, you could have one from Idaho or Nebraska, but it wouldn't be the same as Wu Tang Clan. You know what I mean? So, like being from Staten and repping this East Coast grimy kind of style that also has this spiritual element to it, this this Chinese Eastern Chinese philosophy to it, as well as everything that RZA has put in the Wu manual. In other words, like multiple levels of spirituality, like the Eastern Chinese philosophy, the Islamic philosophy, the kind of 5% stuff that
the 5% nation of gods and earths. I like how they explored more of that, I mean, into the aspect of what their music is really the message that it's trying to convey there, you know what I mean, because it's basically like they're talking about like basically hip hop music, black music, you know what I mean. If we are a black nation, let's rise, that teach you teachings of the 5%. Let's teach you
the revolutionary aspect,
the revolutionary aspects. Let's teach you about Malcolm. Let's teach you about Martin. Let's teach you about all that, like the educational aspects, I mean, that knowledge of self, all that whole concept, I mean, that like that's not that's not really much apparent in the world today, so I like
there's definitely that knowledge aspect, but what I was going to say is at the same time, like RZA and Ghost and Jizza and everybody use that kung fu sword style, which is really all of them. But the guys who kind of focus on that subject matter more, like Master Killa, members such as that, they're also taking this kung fu style, which is like kung fu is hand-to-hand combat. It's like they have those punches and kicks on the track, and they're also watching like a lot of kung fu movies. So there's kind of a juxtaposition duality between the knowledge of the philosophy, like you're saying, to the other side of it is hand-to-hand combat, and like they really are punching you in the face with those punchlines. So like I feel like they're punching that knowledge into you, whether you like it or not, and saying like, yeah, like you just said, yeah, we're teaching you, but it still is, Staten Island, New York, and it still is the streets, and you can still catch the fade. You know what I mean? So it goes both ways. Man. It's like you're learning something, but they're slapping it into you, So like that militant aspect.
Man. I mean, I got family in Staten Island, New York. I've been to, the projects. They never know Harbor projects. Like they pretty much live around there. Like bro. You know what I mean? Like I see how it is out there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you know,
for
you got
real. Like it's
Stapleton,
yeah.
you got the park, you know what I mean? Like yo, they got
Yeah.
grimy areas. So I say it was like very realistic on that aspect to the point, man. Just because like it's their
Yeah.
story that they really they told it very well, man. Like
Yeah.
everything, like he detailed everything, like talked about the musical, everything. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah, so
very
I mean,
interesting.
just
So yeah.
I would say briefly, like episode 1, I think is like the early history, right? So I would just say if you could just briefly summarize, catch people up that might not be familiar with Wu Tang Clan, or at least with the Wu Tang Clan story, and basically 9 dudes link up. I mean, it kind of shows it to you in that other Hulu show. I figured we could just mention that briefly at the end if people want us to review that as well. We could do that another time. But focusing on this, it's like you got these dudes. You got RZA, which they call him the Abbot, which is like the leader of the Abbey. You know what I mean? And like he has that name because he makes all the beats. He organizes everybody. And like you got his brother Divine, who at the time, like Divine was in the streets. He kind of comes out as their manager, doing the business and stuff. And that's how they get money. Then you got like the 9 generals. They all link up together, and they're basically just this local rap group, like we were saying. They're just like one of many competing in Staten and competing in New York on you know what I mean, stages and stuff like that. And like once the DJs get these tapes, is like nothing that has like ever happened before when these guys' songs hit the radio. It is definitely a movement that has never been seen before, as far as grimy East Coast underground hardcore rap taking the scene by storm. And like, just I don't know if anyone has ever skyrocketed like worldwide the way Wu Tang Clan did with that world tour.
And bringing Eastern philosophy into the mix also.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean? Like
yeah.
also
So
showing,
right,
even like making like even more people aware of like kung fu movies and such. Like the ones like they don't know much about Five Deadly Venoms or the Shaolin series. 36
yeah,
Chambers, all that. You know what I mean?
right.
So yeah, man, it even brings a new audience, to the mix of things. Even the ones the youth that's still learning about Wu Tang.
Yeah, the
So
kung fu fans and stuff like that. Like at the time. So yeah,
yeah.
basically, if you haven't heard like Wu Tang Clan before, some of you guys might know if you follow our channel and you follow like action films and the kind of kung fu films that we review here on PXF Paradigm Review Show. Some of the more recent stuff, like the Protector, and RZA's in the Protector too. He also has Man with the Iron Fist. Some of you guys might know RZA is like working with Quentin Tarantino if you follow film, or some of the more recent like films he has made. But before that, we're talking about way back when nobody knew who Robert was, and he was just making beats for his boys. And his boys just happened to be the best rappers in the world at the time, which is the group Wu Tang Clan. You know what I mean? And when Max showed you guys his vinyl, he had the 36 chambers there. RZA and Ghostface and Jizza, they took the name of the group from Kung Fu films, and they used a lot of Kung Fu samples in his production. When he'd make the beats, he would take the punch and the kicks, and he would sample chops, and none of that. It was completely revolutionary for the time. I mean, at the time, hip hop was just drums and a sample, a DJ with a couple tables, and you were lucky if you were getting a scratch. And it was very, very basic production. But I think what RZA and that whole Fourth Disciple style of production, the Wu Tang Clan style production, did was completely revolutionize the production game. And then the way that they were rhyming on it was completely next level. I mean, as far as what they were doing lyrically, guys like Ghostface, Jizza, RZA, everybody in the clan, you know what I mean? Which is, many guys.
For real, like even like explores like each member, the style, how they how they met up with him, what I mean, how they met him, what I'm saying, like
they went. Good.
Yeah, go. No, go ahead, man.
Let's just say they went back and forth on who had the tape first. RZA said he had everybody over, and they recorded it off TV. Well, I think it was 36 Chambers, right, or wherever they got whichever tape, or Five Deadly Venoms was it? Whatever one they got the name from. And Ghost was saying he had the tape and he brought it over to RZA's, but that was, I guess, supposedly after RZA saw it on TV and they booted it off they recorded it on the VCR off TV. For anybody who still remembers what a VCR is, friggin' but yeah, it was so awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's just like they got RZA sitting in that throne there when they do the reaction cams and stuff, and when he's breaking down the Islamic philosophy, that was like my favorite part. How they had the overlay on the screen of the 3D overlay of showing the visual of everything he was explaining, as far as what I mean, breaking down Islam. Like that was totally next level.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, that was my favorite part. Like the favorite detail.
They even talk about like the certain name aliases they went by at first. Like Prince Rakim. And he had a single out on Tommy Boy, and obviously that went kaput, and
they made him do some radio sounding stuff, which was obviously not Wu Tang. Anyone who's heard the first 5 or 10 Wu Tang albums,
that's not
it's the grimiest beats on earth. It's kind of the darkest. No one else like chops your head off with sword things the way Wu Tang Clan does. So to have these guys now, even if you are a mainstream fan and you know some of the other members from Big TV, this guy had a bunch of mainstream singles and stuff like that. And then I think the ODB chapter is chapter 2.
Yeah. Where he talks more about ODB and basically, his importance and purpose, and what he does, I like that.
Which
got more on him about, how they remembered him, you can tell they all loved him, so and I think it was a kind of I'm gonna be 100 with this. I think it was kind of sad with the final chapters with the RZA and him and ODB.
Definitely. So
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was definitely the most sad chapter. I mean, this is kind of like what we were saying. Like, if you're a big Wu Tang fan, like, there's ups and downs in this doc because you're going to be learning the story. Like, oh my gosh, that's how they all linked up together. Blah blah blah. The background stuff, like, that's so awesome and epic. And then it goes into the Wu Tang story. And if you guys know anything, we're calling it ODB. He goes by Old Dirty Bastard. He uses the drunken boxing style of each one of them having their own kung fu sword style that they rhyme with. His would be the drunken boxing style, and ODB is kind of like the mascot of Wu Tang. Like he's like the Flavor Flav of Wu Tang, right? Like he's the symbol, and he's insane. You know what I mean? But he can rap his ass off too. So it's a dicey situation. You know what I mean? Like what this guy might say. That he's the guy who he pulls antics at award shows. Like this guy doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? And basically, this is the most sad chapter because what they're saying as far as the business is some people were, could get out of the contract. Some people couldn't, blah, blah, blah. And ODB and RZA are like cousins. And then Jizza was the other original member with them three. And, saying obviously Ray and Ghost and stuff eventually link up down the line. But basically it goes into a lot of ODB and RZA's relationship and how ODB wanted to get out of the contract at some point. So RZA ultimately lets him out. And then ODB did some time. He got locked up like a few times if you follow his career. And then at some point, a lot of people, at least us Wu-Tang fans know, there's like that awkward moment when Dame Dash goes to get ODB at lockdown and he gets him out of there. And when they get him out, it's basically Dame is saying he was going to sign him. And I found this part interesting because when I was watching it, I said like they bring him to the studio, which I don't know if that was Rockefeller at the time or whatever that was, and they played those beats and they're like rocking out to the beats and there's no yo what do you think, and the ODB is just kind of like he's not really reacting. And when I saw that, I was just like, dude, it feels like ODB is like not feeling those whack ass beats. And then they cut to the next scene. They're like, yeah, so we called RZA and he's downstairs right now. We're going to get him. Because I'm like, yeah, they came to no other conclusion that like, yeah, we're going to have to call RZA to go get his beats because he's not going to rhyme on anything but RZA beats. Like, that's how I felt, but I don't know if you viewed that differently than me.
I mean, they did, he did, I think he did something with RZA, but then he did something with DJ Premier, a song called Pop.
Yeah,
that was one of the joints he picked. I think there was another joint he did with Lil P from MOP. So, I think EP
so
or LP. I don't know if you heard of it. he signed Unique. That's the EP, I believe, or the
Yeah, I don't
LP,
think
I
I heard
believe.
that one. I don't know
Well,
if that's
that
the
one
one you
was
did. Over.
supposedly was shelved, but it was supposed to
Mm,
be released on Rockefeller and it never got released. But
right,
that was supposed to be the new ODB album, and yeah,
right.
I think it's available for free download, I believe.
Word.
So
I'll check it out.
yeah, for sure, man. It's I heard the album was pretty dope, man. For sure. Like I think it was good for a final ODB album, but
Word.
obviously 36 Chambers is always gonna be my shit. So
Yeah,
it's
I
hard
mean
to say.
the guy is an incredible talent. There's no denying that. And if you know like Wu Tang Clan, but you don't really know about ODB's like solo stuff, like this is your chance to see a deep dive into who he was and why he's because it ain't the right option to just play him out. Like if you know him for like yelling and getting all bent and stuff and partying and stuff, like and you don't know about what he does lyrically, then this is your chance to learn about him as a person and an MC, because it wouldn't be right for any hip hop fan to just dismiss him like if you know the rest of Wu Tang but you don't know his solo stuff. The guy can rap, you know what I mean, for sure.
Like I think
So,
everybody thought of him as like crazy energy, but at the end of the day, he was still a human being. He was still like
right, right.
like you could tell, like he was very much aware of what was around him. He was a paranoid person. At the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah,
and
he made some interesting comments about his legal situation and what he thought might be the case as far as whoever he thought
right.
was after him. Which you guys can formulate your own opinion on that. If you know the ODB story, you know that he's the only member of the Wu Tang Clan that is not surviving today. So it's the other 8 generals, and then sometimes they do have his son YDB filling for him at shows where he spits the ODB verses, and he looks and sounds exactly like him. So he's a stand-in, which is cool that his son can hold him down. You know what I mean, for the live shows. The next chapter, I want to say they dive deeper into the business on this one, and for me, this is where you see that background footage of just like the contracts falling apart. Like this is why I call it the rise and fall of Wu-Tang fan, because like Mac was saying, they show you the real truth of the business. If you want to learn the music business, you want to learn about like what Wu-Tang went through, this is where you're going to go to see it. And because they show you every backstage argument, you know what I mean, on camera, like when Ghost is freaking screaming on Divine and frying him in the kitchen, they have the whole thing on there. So like that's what made it different for me. Like the cool, interesting historical parts are like, oh, that's dope. They're doing their world tours. But then when they can have their arguments like snapping on each other, I'm like, I don't want to call it like reality TV-esque, but like it's hyper real, like just screaming on each other. So what was your take on the arguments?
Nah, man, they were very on point, man, with all the arguments and all that. You could tell, like, the business side to them was the most irritating side of it all.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, you could tell they, that's their brother, but at the same time, we got into this thing together before a reason. I'm trying to get paid, and something is holding me back, so I want to know what's up. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so. Yeah, pretty much. Excuse me. Pretty much like I like that I explored that aspect along with our ODB's issues and like also Divine. Yeah.
I was getting to that.
Yeah, like pretty much. I'm glad that they had him like. Got to interview him. He said he doesn't even do interviews.
Right.
Interviewing, you know what I mean? And he always spoke about the business side of things on his end, and he felt like it was all, he got, I don't know, I guess he got jerked out the deal or such.
Yeah, basically. So just to summarize that for people, like if you have seen it, you can leave us your comments on it. If you haven't seen it, you want to see it yet. Basically, if you don't know that part of the story, Divine is like RZA's brother, who we were talking about earlier. And when they make a deal and he basically like comes back with a number that like Ghost said and like everybody else said, like they want the whole number, not a fraction of it. RZA has to basically go back to Divine and tell him that like he's out of the band, and he's out of the company, he's out of the organization. So a guy who's basically been there pretty much since the start. That's RZA's brother that knows them all. He's out on a business account, and they show you the arguments leading up to that and what transpired. They get, like they said, they get everyone else's side, and like Max said, they get his side of it too. So it's just kind of interesting for that to happen and for him to be so close to it, Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, and you could tell, it's always been a frustrating year for them on that.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, you can tell they love doing what they do. They love throwing that energy. They always love to do new music. When they can.
Right.
You could tell when it got to the Iron Flag segment you could tell at that point, they were kind of not even feeling, the energy there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's just pretty much how they explained it, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Period at that point, and everyone's out to get theirs. They're trying to get theirs, and
it becomes a little bit more. So basically, they just to summarize that real quick, they get signed for their big group deal, and then I think it was Loud Records who had Big Pun and all these epic art. Now, Steve Rifkin, actually, real quick, just to go into that that part when they pull up on the record studio and they all cram into that side room with Steve Rifkin and they just scream on him, barring his life away. And then the manager didn't know that was Steve Rifkin. He thought he was. So he was trying to get a hold of them to sign him, and they were like, and nobody even knew that he was the owner of the label. that was probably the funniest thing that's ever happened in hip hop history. Like, there's no way that it's ever happened to any other artist. Like, that dude was like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I didn't know that he was the owner. He's like, I thought he was just some intern. You know what I mean? That was amazing. But what were we saying about that? Oh, so then when they got their solo deals, that's kind of like what Mac was saying, when everybody was splitting off, getting their solo deals, that's when things got kind of convoluted, because you have this super group where they have this big, RZA has them all signed under this deal, then everyone's dropping their solos, and if you follow,
well, wasn't the solos? It was more like, I think, Wu Tang Forever, because everyone was so successful off their solos that now when Wu Tang Forever came along and they had to do an album, U-God got upset, on about what about my album,
right. It's like, what time did they reunite again? Does everybody how do you figure that out? Like you said, you got 9 members, so it's not the easiest decision.
And not to mention, RZA made a lot of beats, but I think just to cover everything, he needed a production team, and I think that's became the birth of Fourth Disciple and all that. But some extra,
and True Master and stuff, all of the RZA proteges and stuff, which shout out to all of them of the Wu Tang production crew. Those guys are all monsters. But it's pretty awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff. It's definitely a deep dive. If you guys are Wu Tang Clan fans, I definitely recommend it. There's also the what is it called, Wu Tang: The American Saga on Hulu. It's a 10-part docudrama. I'm sure they have some other word that they use for that, but if you guys want us to review that and get our opinions on that one, you can tell us what you want in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share, comment, and we could go into that one for you as well. You have anything else on the Wu-Tang of Mics and Men documentary, or we could also drop our ratings, how you rated it?
I'll say this though, before we even drop our ratings, I want to make a quick comparison. I know a lot are aware of the show Wu Tang: The American Saga.
Yeah,
and I like to make just a quick comparison of this one.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, the documentary is a more that's the real story right there. That's
It's not a reenactment. It's not actors or any of that stuff. How they did that. So this is the real. This is with the artists.
Exactly. Yeah, telling they're telling it to you how it is, and that's how the horse's mouth. But
right.
Well, when it comes to the show, they say is it's true, but at the same time, there's some stuff that in there that would change, just pretty much
embellished,
yeah, make it more entertaining and more interesting.
Yeah,
And stuff, you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
I mean, and I've seen the show and such, you know what I mean? And, I'm glad they're making a season 2 because, I liked season 1, it actually like was a very entertaining you know, season, you know what I mean? Everything,
Yeah,
showing
yeah,
how the clan know each other and all that, and after seeing the documentary, obviously, you know what I mean, I could pretty much tell what might happen next or whatever,
yeah. It kind of fills in the blanks, if you will.
you never know. Maybe they'll do something entertaining on this one, and maybe it'd be worth like checking out. So yeah,
Like I said, if the people want us to review that one, we can put it in the series. We got a couple things coming up. We have a graphic novel, our first graphic novel review coming up that we're going to do. I also heard Risen, the story of Sharon Smith, the documentary of Hellraiser, aka Heaven Raiser of Sons of Men, is coming out soon on Amazon. So look out for that. As soon as it drops, Mac and I will have a review up for that. Looking to get a Hellraiser interview for the music channel as well. As far as the American Saga, it was good. I did like it, but how it ended, I just felt like it ended kind of abruptly. It did leave me wanting more, but I guess, like you said, maybe that's for season 2. I'm not a big fan of cutoffs, as we all know, if you've seen my other reviews, but like you said, maybe that's where season 2 comes in. So, but man, shout out to the clan. Shout out to even Showtime. Oh, one other thing I want to mention is there's a bunch of hidden chambers, which are like, I guess, chapters that didn't make the final cut of the documentary. It's on the channel Mass Appeal on YouTube. So if you look up Wu Tang of Mics and Men Hidden Chambers on the Mass Appeal channel, there's a bunch of like extra interviews and extra footage on there, which is actually really dope. So I just wanted to shout that out for people that wanted some more extra hidden chambers. So that's that.
I'm wondering, what's your rating on this one?
So my rating on this one, right now, it currently has an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. I have this at a 10 out of 10. This is like the most epic documentary I've ever seen, man. Like I used to watch a lot of documentaries back in the day. There's a lot of good ones, like stuff like Collapse and Michael Rupert and those kind of subjects, and other music documentaries as well. But man, I think this is like the best hip hop documentary I've ever seen. Although that opinion is heavily biased by Wu Tang fanboyism. How about you?
Yeah, man, I definitely have to give this one a 10 out of 10. I mean, the thing is, obviously, you could call it biased if you want or whatever, but at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of the Wu. I've been a huge fan of the Wu since middle school. You know what I mean? Like when I, heard like just heard like the like ghost faces like Iron Man and when Raekwon's only built for Cuban links.
Yeah.
Like like basically when you're a big fan of something, then you're looking at the history of it all like immersively, then you can say like it's something that was just well constructed and well made, and you can definitely put that as one of the best documentaries ever like created. So
hell yeah. That's why I recommended it to you, because like as soon as I watched that, I thought it was so awesome. Like it was the first thing I thought of. Like I need to tell Mac about this. Like this is the best doc ever. And I mean, I talked to other people about it, and like they've said that like, oh man, like I'm depressed now because they all turned against each other, like type thing. And like I don't think that's the way to look at it. Like they were all sitting together in the movie theater and stuff during their full clan interview, so they go back and forth throughout it to like show you the story and background interviews to all of them together, like reacting about like how crazy they all were. You remember when who was that went in the booth? I think it was like Raekwon or something. I don't know if that was like the Triumph footage or something, where like Ray went in and did his verse and like 6 guys went in with him. They were just standing behind him, hyping him, like doing his ad libs. Like, wow, the dude is. I've never seen any group do that before, where like one dude goes in the booth and like all his homies go with him. Like, I was like, dude, this is the best.
I like that though. I like the green screen effects they did to it. Also, you know what I mean? Like,
it showed you the energy.
Made it even more
like you said about like having intimate relationship with the music, like it showed you the energy. And like now when you go back and listen to those albums, like seeing how they spit it in the booth with all of them together, like now I'm seeing that when I hear the tracks, and I'm just like, it's like punching my head off even harder now. So definitely shout out to everybody that was involved in making this. Like I said, 10 out of 10 for me. And like I said, as far as like, oh, they all turned against each other, like, they all talked together, and even at the end, they all dapped each other up, and we're still brothers. And talked about like, you know, every time like Deck went in the booth, you know, how many notebooks they had to rip up to like as far as competing with each other on bars and verses. So it's the most next level lyrical documentary ever made. So
They have a lot of interesting things to say about each other, man, no matter what.
Yeah, you get the like how they all feel each other and how they all interact and stuff like Mac was saying. So yeah, man, absolute fire. It's called Wu Tang of Mics and Men. It's on Showtime. I think Showtime has some sort of streaming service. I forget what it's called because there's so many now, but whatever. Shout out to Showtime for getting involved with this, because I mean, you wouldn't have a lot of you know, a lot of things like this going down. So yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Check it out any way you guys can. I'm sure you can stream it online and leave your feedback, what you think about this review for us. If you want us to review the Wu Tang American Saga series on Hulu, season 1. Also, like we said, Risen, Hellraiser, Sons of Man, the story of Sharon Smith documentary. As soon as it drops, Mac and I are going to try to get our reaction review up as soon as possible. So, and then we also got a graphic novel. Also, we got Ancient Visions tomorrow with our co-host Gaz Visions. We're going to review a couple things on there, and Mac will be having his brand new Ruin Your Weekend segment, which will be on him this time since I did the last one. So follow us, Twitter and Instagram handles below. Like, subscribe, comment, share. And PXF, Paradigm Films, make sure you subscribe and share all the links. Tell everybody you know. We do all kinds of documentaries here, pretty much every genre. So follow Mac. Any party words, sir?
Yeah, Mac the Rebel, PXR. That's both Twitter and Instagram. So you know, you can follow me on those.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, man, my main PlanetXRecords.net, you know, so that's how we come. And Guerrilla Alliance, Hobo with a Machete, coming soon.
Oh yeah.
And again, you know, y'all gonna be ready for something crazy. So yeah, man.
Yeah, matter of fact, do yourself a favor and head over to youtube.com/PlanetX Record, or just the Planet X Records channel on YouTube. You can find the links under channels on this channel, and start subscribing now, because when these singles drop, you guys will be ahead of the game, and the singles are dropping very soon. So PXF, PXR, PXG, PXM, we're out. Peace.
Wu Tang forever.
Wu Tang forever.